It was a strange season last year for Bryson Stott, and we may finally be figuring out why. The third-year second baseman did not take the next step in his development as was hoped and took a slight step back from what was seen in his second season. However, it may not be time to fully panic as we got some new reports regarding why exactly this was the case. And to dive directly into it, we get a headline here saying Bryson Stott affected by sore elbow for most of 2024. And to dive into the exact details of this report here, let's get right to it. I want to start off with this paragraph saying 2 seasons ago, Stott batted at a 280 batting average and a 747 OPS with 15 home runs and 32 doubles. All of those numbers decreased in 2024. Stott's batting average dipped to 245 last season, with his OPS dropping to 671. He finished the year with 12 home runs and 19 doubles. Stott did improve in some areas. His walk rate finished at a career-high 9.3%, but for the most part, he regressed. One major area of his game that fell off was his ability to hit fastballs. After struggling against heaters during his rookie season, Stott was much better against them in 2023, hitting .304 and slugging .435. Those numbers weren't as good last season as Stott batted .220 against fastballs in 2024. He slugged just .350 against them. Stott's consistent lack of production in 2024 was unlike what we've seen with him in previous years. He made adjustments throughout his rookie season. There were moments in 22 when he flashed signs of being a more than capable big league hitter after stretches of serious struggles. He experienced ups and downs in 2023 too, but outside of that hot 3-week stretch in May, Stott never got going last season. Now, to add a little bit to this directly here, I do think there is, I don't want to say excuse making, but I do think that maybe a little bit more being made about this than is the case in actuality. But if that's what Bryson Stott needs in his head to believe that he can be back to being that same guy, I am on board with it because the Phillies need him to be that guy. And I do want to dig in a little bit deeper on kind of the big picture conversation. I do think that there should be some talks about the potential to swap Bryson Stott and Trey Turner in those shortstop and second base positions in the years moving forward. But I do think that's more of a long-term conversation than this season directly. So to talk a little bit more about what this article did state, do want to continue on with this section here that writes, his lesser production now makes more sense. President of Baseball Operations Dave Dombrowski revealed to Jim Salisbury of PHLY that Stott dealt with a sore elbow for most of 2024. Dombrowski noted the issue affected Stott's ability to drive the ball, but both Dombrowski and manager Rob Thomson told Salisbury they expect Stott to improve offensively in 2025. Numbers back up Stott's inability to drive the ball as much. His average exit velocity dipped to 87 miles per hour after being 88.1 in 2022 and 2023. His hard hit rate dropped too. It was a career low 30.8% in 2024. The now 27-year-old made comments back in October that hinted at the idea that he was dealing with an ailment. While saying he avoided serious injuries and time on the injured list, Stott said, quote, obviously you play through things throughout the year that are nagging and doesn't seem to go away. And you kind of just put your head down and keep going and find a way to play through those things. So I do give a lot of respect to Bryson Stott for battling through this and obviously continuing to be on the field as active as he was and as often as he was. I don't think this was an awful year from Bryson Stott. Certainly underwhelming. And to kind of set a little bit of the tone here, I do have 2 graphs. Shout out to Fangraphs here who put these together that I thought were interesting to look at. This looking directly at the batting average here, which I know batting average is kind of becoming a lost statistic to look at, but I do think it replicates this pretty well. So this is comparing him to Trey Turner, who obviously is his shortstop partner, but a guy that I think if we were to be super optimistic about the potential growth of Bryson Stott, maybe carry on to that pathway. I don't think Bryson Stott will ever be quite the version of Trey Turner that was once getting MVP votes, but I do hope that he can be in that tier of player, I guess I would say. So this is kind of comparing it, but what you can directly see, and I'll blow it up a little bigger here, is you can see that in his age 24 season, just about the same as what was the production last year. So you see the dip with Bryson Stott being this blue line here. So what we're seeing was his age 25 season was more impressive than the age 25 season of Trey Turner, but then we saw him moving in the direct opposite direction there. Now, to add another stat, did want to pull up slugging percentage, as it did mention how the hard hit balls and his ability to drive the baseball was notably seen in this. And I also added Alec Boehm to this graph here, which I thought was interesting to contrast these two. So you can see that Alec Boehm obviously came up a year earlier and showed some nice signs of being able to hit the ball hard in his age 23 season there. They both played some significant innings for this Phillies team at age 24, you know, the daycare kids that we were discussing at that point in time, and had relatively similar slugging percentage between both Boehm and Stott there. Then you can see this next season where they each begin to take that leap forward, both kind of sitting right around the league average line, a little bit above. Boehm basically right on it, Stott a little bit above. And then that next season, which was obviously last year, at age 26 for Stott, we see him dip back down while Bohm continues progressing. So I do think the hit rate or the hit rate and the slugging percentage specifically is something that is more important to Alec Bohm than Bryson Stott. But I think that's very interesting when comparing these two is I've said this before, but if you had asked me coming into this season, before we went on this entire Phillies year, if you said one of these two players is going to take a massive step forward, Alec Bohm or Bryson Stott, I would have said Bryson Stott 10 times out of 10, and I was very surprised to see the version of Alec Bohm that we saw for half of a year. Now, all we've heard is trade rumors surrounding Alec Bohm, and I think that's very telling for starters that we have not heard a peep about Bryson Stott in general, but more so that I think the Phillies kind of agree with that assessment, that they believe this is a high point of Alec Bohm. This is not a guy that's going to be a legitimate every year starter in the All-Star game at third base. Would be nice if that is the case, but I think if the Phillies believe that, we would not be hearing these constant trade rumors regarding him. Now, to have the Bryson Stott conversation, let's first fully contextualize kind of the drop off that we see. So he came into the MLB at age 24, obviously, played 127 games, had a 1.2 WAR, looking directly at kind of the splits there, that the batting average 234, had a 295 OBP, a 358 slugging percentage, a 653 OPS there. And then you look at the next season at age 25, played 151 games, his WAR went up to 4.3, which is really impressive there. Then continuing on, his batting average 280, hit 329 from an OBP, 419 slugging percentage, and a 747 OPS. That was the Bryson Stott that we were excited to see. This was a guy that looked like he was on the all-star caliber of trajectory here. I know my dad says this all the time, but he believes he's the second coming of Chase Utley, that he can follow this path. I'm not quite there with Stott yet, but I do understand what he means and can see the vision to the extent here. Now, to continue on to last season at the age 26 season for Bryson Stott, that WAR dropped to 2.5, which is pretty significant drop off there. He did play 148 games, and looking at the numbers across the board, the batting average dipped from 280 to 245, the OBP from 329 to 315, the slugging percentage from 419 to 356, and the OPS from 747 to 671. So pretty steep drop off there that we're discussing with Stott specifically there. And I think this season coming up is going to be something that's pretty make or break for what the version of Bryson Stott is in actuality. It's been up and down. We've seen this just 3 years, so I'm not ready to give up on this whatsoever. And by the way, he's been incredibly solid with his glove even last year as he was struggling at the plate. That's been something that particularly has frustrated me when discussing Trey Turner, that when we were kind of looking at these struggles of Trey Turner, to me, it feels like the issues compound, that when he is struggling at the plate, that carries over to the field, and when he's struggling in the field, that carries over to the plate. I don't feel that way with Bryson Stott, that I think he still feels his position incredibly well just about all the time there, and I don't think this is something that he gets in his own head with. I mean, if you want to look at the full low point of Trey Turner, when that ball went between his legs and he was in the full meltdown mode, that was kind of right in the midst of all of this. And obviously, he did not hit those lows last year. He was better across the board, but still not the Trey Turner that you shelled out all this significant money to. Now, when talking about Stott and last season as a whole, did want to acknowledge these stats here, and let me pop them back on the screen. Just 11 home runs, 57 RBIs, a 315 on-base percentage there. In 506 at-bats, had just 129 hits there. And to directly contrast that with Trey Turner, we're talking about 21 home runs, 62 RBIs, 338 on-base percentage, 505 at-bats, had 149 hits. To be direct here, I don't think that combination is good enough, that you need more production from each of those guys, really, but they have to combine, I would say, for more offensive production. That for Turner specifically, even though he was better last year, that is not quite the Trey Turner that I'm still hoping to see. And to kind of pull up the average graph again, and again, I know batting average is looked at down upon by quite some people, but take a look at kind of the graph here. You can see the highs that we saw from Trey Turner in a Dodgers uniform that have not been achieved in a Phillies uniform just yet. To look at the slugging percentage, you can see how that bottomed out. This is something that I really need to see. And once again, Trey Turner being that black line in this specific graph here, if he can get back to near the 0.6 type of category rather than below the 0.5, which is where he has been in every single stretch of his Phillies career thus far, that is going to be something that helps this team incredibly there. Now, for Bryson Stott here, I don't think it's super likely that this is the case, but I do think in the long haul, the Phillies should absolutely have the discussions about flipping these guys' positions. That's been my biggest surprise about Trey Turner. I thought he was going to be a better fielder than really has proven to be the case. And I know Dodgers people will come right back at me and say that this is the same Trey Turner that's suited up for them. He's always had these issues, and that may be true, and I'm sure it is. I'm not questioning you guys on that there, but I just had higher hopes that a guy with the athletic tools that he has and the skill set, simply I feel like should be better than Trey Turner is. And I think what's frustrating about Turner specifically is there are like the random easy ones that he just completely flubs. And I just don't love that from a conceptual standpoint. I think for Turner specifically, it's very important to continue being a shortstop, and I think that was a huge part of the conversation when he signed the contract. This is not something that I think you make the move for this specific year. You got to hope that Turner has another notch that he can grow or get to for this season coming up. But I do think in the long haul, that should be something weighed pretty considerably for this Phillies team is, do you flip Bryson Stott, make him a shortstop, a guy that I believe can just field the position straight up better than Turner, and see if that is the way to go from here. Ultimately, that is a bigger picture conversation. How he hits at the plate this season will be a larger indicator of what his role on this Phillies team is. But hopefully that recovery process is going fine and he's able to be the 100% version of himself this season. Disappointing that last year did not go as planned for Bryson Stott, but I do think it's telling that we've heard no sort of trade rumors regarding his name. I do think the organization still believes in him pretty strongly, and I think there's a chance where this could be his breakout season moving forward. So I do have high hopes for Bryson Stott. I think he's one of the few positions that we can look at and believe that there is more growth coming, that I think we kind of know what we have in the guys like Bryce Harper, like Kyle Schwarber, like Nick Castellanos, unfortunately like Trey Turner there, that Bryson Stott is a guy who is still progressing, is still getting better, and I cannot wait to see what he looks like with a fully healthy season next year. So let me know if you guys are kind of buying what Bryson Stott is selling as far as it comes with the injury there. Obviously, never wish ill will on anybody and do hope that he makes a full recovery. There's nothing super significant with that elbow or whatever the situation may be, but ultimately need to see a little bit more from Bryson Stott in the season moving forward. So let me know what you guys think in the comments for the outlook of Bryson Stott and Trey Turner there. As always, appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning into this video. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Dropping a like on this video. I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.